All right, Auburn recruiting fans, commit number 2 is in the books. Let's talk about who that is and what it means for Auburn football in the future. But before we do that, I want to welcome you back to the channel, whether you're a member of the Auburn family or a fan of another persuasion. This is the E2C network where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here may tend to be Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any content. And thank you to members of our booster club like Kelby Flowers, who help produce videos like this. Commit number 2. We were waiting for it. It has finally arrived. Terrance Love from Fairburn, Georgia and Langston Hughes High School has decided to commit to the Auburn Tigers. Now, as always, remember, this is just a commitment. There is a long way to go to actually a signing day, whether that's early or the traditional normal signing day. Still a bit of a ways to go on that front, but it's still exciting to welcome him to the recruiting class and basically already welcome him to the Auburn family. Terrence is a current consensus 4-star recruit based off of all the different sites that you can check out there. He's also the number 2 recruit in the class for Auburn, but the first defensive recruit in the 2023 class. So that makes him obviously the first defensive back and the first safety overall in the class, if we're going to get multiple of them as well. Now, depending on where you look, he's currently listed at about 6'3", 6'2", somewhere in that range, and 195 pounds, which makes him on the bigger side of a defensive back, which is why he qualifies as a safety. He received his offer from the Auburn Tigers on the 23rd of February in 2021, and obviously committed right after A-Day on April 10th of 2022, just a little bit over a year from the time of his initial offer date to his commitment date. And I'm really excited to have him here and have him be an early one in this class for what it will mean, and what we'll talk about that in just a second. So the reason as to why he chose Auburn, a couple of different things. Well, it's close to his home. Langston Hughes is right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and Fairburn, Georgia, not too far removed from the actual city. So that proximity is going to play really well for him and his family, for them to come see him play here at Auburn. He also credited Zach Etheridge as his lead recruiter about how relentless he was. This tells you right here how important keeping Zach Etheridge on this staff was for Coach Harsin and co. I'm so glad that they made that one happen. Other teams that were in hot pursuit were teams from Florida, mainly Florida, Miami, others as well. You can never really count out Georgia, especially since he's from their home state, Tennessee being right up there too. Those are names to keep in mind, and as always, Alabama too. Now let's read a statement that he posted on social media when he decided to announce his commitment. First, I want to thank God for everything he has done for me. I would like to thank my parents and grandparents for everything they have done for me thus far. From supporting me on the field to molding me into the man I am today, I would also like to thank Coach Hilton, Coach Brandon Morton, the Langston Hughes coaching staff, and nevertheless, my teammates for helping me pave my legacy. It's been a long journey since I was 4 years old, being forced to play football. I would cry every day for about 3 to 4 years until I figured out I was actually good at football and it became fun. Transitioning to high school was a big stepping stone for me as a player. My recruitment began to pick up from schools across the country. I thank every school that took the chance and gave me the opportunity to play at the next level. With that being said, for the next 3 to 4 years, I will be attending the Auburn University. Gotta love him throwing the Auburn University on there and not doing the whole University of Auburn thing. Either way, I'm just glad he chose Auburn, so I'm not going to really complain about that. So now I want to talk about 3 points, what Terrance Love and his commitment to Auburn means for the program going forward into the future. Let's talk about number 1, and that is the big bang after A-Day. You see this a lot with big events that teams will hold, whether it's a big recruiting day like Auburn's Junior Day or something like that, or the A-Day spring game that every team holds in college football, basically. You want to see fruit come from that, not just on the field, but what you're trying to build for the future. And to have that actually happen for Auburn the day after it ends is a big, big thing for them. There are a lot of fans that question Coach Harsin's ability early on in his tenure, ability to close after these big events. Well, this is a sign that could be heading in the right direction for him, and could be a sign maybe more to come. Number 2, he is going to be the defensive leader for this recruiting class. Now, this is just my own personal opinion, but this is kind of the way these things typically shake out. The way that you see these kids recruit early on is usually a sign that they're probably going to stick it out, and they usually end up being your best leaders in terms of recruiting other athletes to come be a part of Auburn. So I see that obviously in Braden Joyner, who we've talked about in the previous video, about his importance on the offensive side of things and the offensive line side of things. Same thing could be said here for this recruit. Could be the defensive leader for us going forward, and I think that's why Terrance Love is so important to get him in early as we have done. And number 3, he's a Georgia recruit. It's no shock that the pipeline for Auburn has traditionally been obviously the state of Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Those are the 3-pronged attack stakes that you usually see Auburn go into and pull recruits out of on a consistent basis. We have the Alabama box already checked with our first commit of Braden Joyner, and it's only fitting that we do that in the second commit by getting that pipeline state of Georgia taken care of. It's always good to go into Atlanta and its surrounding communities and suburbs and take a recruit out of there, out of basically the backyard of Georgia, who is just now the national champions. So from what I'm seeing right now, Georgia's not really a factor in all of this at the moment, but you never know when that's going to change, so it's good that we got in there early on him and made him part of this class within the state of Georgia early on. Finally, I want to talk about the outlook for him and the future of the team with him in mind. Now, currently, as of doing this video, there are about 7 names on the roster at safety. There's 2 juniors, 4 sophomores, and 1 freshman. Technically, Trey Donaldson is part of the football recruiting class at safety as well, but he's not currently listed, but he's also probably going to end up sticking with basketball as much as he says he wants to be a dual sport athlete. I've been wrong before. We'll just have to see what happens. So right now, I'm just going to say there are 7 on the roster at this moment. What does this mean for Terrance Love? Well, it probably means there's a lot ahead of him. So right now at this moment, just kind of looking at things, I don't see a lot of opportunities for him to come in right away and get significant playing time, but he can obviously earn that for himself. And if he is as good as people say he is, I would expect nothing less for him to come in, shock some people, and earn some significant playing time in his first year. But for right now, I would probably just expect to see him on special teams and in limited games so they can save that potential red shirt for him while we have the depth that we need at safety. And obviously things will change. Transfer portals in play for both sides of the coin there, and people will leave and come for different reasons throughout the year. Obviously, this is just a moving target at this point. We're only speculating. It'd be nice to get him in early. He's an early commit. It'd be nice to get him into the early signing period so we could potentially get him on campus and have our first look at him in the 2023 8A game so we can really make some judgments on what his potential is to play early or not. So those are all my thoughts on the number 2 recruit on the recruiting class for 2023 Auburn football. I want to know from you now in the comments section below what you think about him. What are you most excited? What do you think his opportunities are to play early on at Auburn? If you enjoy this type of content, please do help support it by smashing that like button. If you want more from us, be sure to hit the subscribe along with the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads or live streams. There's ways to help support our content listed in the description, such as hitting the join button here on YouTube, become a channel member for $1 a month, or heading over to patreon.com/E2C network to join up there for different perks at $1 a month starting and going up. Those are the things that you can do to help support us. Thank you for tuning into the E2C network, where the Auburn family speaks. War Eagle.